You Ariana Novo, Lezu, and Sudeshna FWWMUN.
You are all here for a purpose. You think you can, or at least you want to change the world, right? Well, believe me, we know that's a big goal, and it'll have to take something exceptional to fulfill. The purpose for the Future We Want Model United Nations is to strengthen youth and advocate for the United Nations. FWWMUN is committed to promoting a united international community, a better future, and a more sustainable world through the achievement of the UN Sustainable Development Goals.
A while back, a Rotarian informed our Interact Club of a project to challenge Rotary youth. He dared us to take on the world's biggest problems, to change the world in a significant way. He called this project the Dare to Be Great initiative. He challenged us to dare to see the world not as it is today, but rather how it could be, and then to make that could be real. He challenged us to say, why not? We thought for a moment about how big some of the world's problems are, but then agreed, why not? So we call on all groups of young people, please join us in seeing the world as it could be and say, why not? Let's make a worldwide youth movement to dramatically change the world, to make history.
In his recent commencement speech at Harvard, Mark Zuckerberg challenged graduates to dare to tackle major ambitious projects, to bring together masses of people for the general benefit of society. He said, let's do big things, not only to create progress, but to create purpose. Mark Zuckerberg, we heard you. We're here and we're not afraid. Almost 2 billion people on this planet are between the ages of 6 and 19. If we unite, we're the most powerful force on Earth. We therefore call on all young people on the planet under the age of 30 to join us in mobilizing all the rest of the young people who have the courage and confidence to take on all.
But what goal do we want to focus on? What is our mission? Earlier this year, young people around the world were thinking about what the mission of our movement should be. We asked ourselves, what single achievement would benefit the world more than any other? We thought about ending hunger, disease, illiteracy, conflict, but then we realized that even greater than solving any particular major world problem would be the creation of a worldwide cadre of effective global problem solvers who had the skills and the mindset to take on all the world's major problems. You all know the story. Give a person a fish and you feed them for a day. Teach them to fish and you feed them for a lifetime. We feel that this is similar. Solve a single problem and you make the world a little bit better. Teach a generation how to solve major problems and you better the world in many ways for now and many generations to come. And so that's the real mission of Rotary Youth for a Better World. To build a worldwide army of young people who have the passion, determination, courage, and confidence to take on all the world's major problems, including those not yet known. Rotary Youth for a Better World is focused on motivating, mobilizing, and organizing young people around the world, especially disadvantaged youth, and helping them become those agents of change, those global problem solvers and strategic thinkers that the world needs.
We need to ask ourselves, when is doing good not so good? Well, that's when it distracts from the greater good. Some types of charity are more about making the givers feel good than in maximizing the amount of good that can be delivered, an ego charity of sorts. The only good we offer to the members of Rotary Youth for a Better World is leadership development. We want our peers to understand the difference between strategic and operational leadership, to think more like a general than a sergeant. The real difference between these two types of leadership is one uses your hands to help a few, the other uses your heads to mobilize others to help the many.
We need to solve problems, not just put band-aids on the symptoms. Polio is a perfect example. Initial passionate members could have simply decided to vaccinate tens of thousands of children and feel really good about themselves. If they had done that, polio would still be as widespread today as it was then. But instead, they said, let's eradicate this disease. That's a totally different mindset. That means you don't focus on how many children have been vaccinated, but on how many remain to be vaccinated. Stalin supposedly said, a single death is a tragedy. 1 million deaths is a statistic. We saw that a couple of years ago when hundreds of refugees were dying trying to get across the Mediterranean and Aegean seas. People said it was terrible, but did nothing about it until the body of a 3-year-old boy washed up on the shores of Turkey. But a true strategic leader has to learn to be driven by fact more than by emotion. We have to realize that it is a statistic that is the true tragedy. Needs should determine goals, not just what we think we can do.
We must learn to see beyond what is to what could be. A common denominator in troubled neighborhoods and cities around the world is a lack of hope. Without hope, there's no trying, and without trying, there's no change for the better, and so the cycle of hopelessness continues. We seek to deliver the kind of hope that comes from being in charge of one's own destiny and believing in one's ability to solve whatever problems life throws at them. By showing young people that they have the power to better their world, we give them the kind of hope that leads to trying. It's all about believing. There's a saying, whether you believe you can or you believe you can't, either way, you're right. Do you truly believe young people have the power to solve the problems behind the SDGs? We do. We have to help young people see beyond what is to what could be, and then help them gain the confidence to believe that they can actually make the could be real.
Okay, we now know what we have to do, right? We have to mobilize the youth of the world and convince them that they have the power to dramatically change the world so that they will continue to do so. That means taking on really big issues because, well, the world is big. How do we start that, though? First, we need to do something big enough to get everyone's attention. The media, the masses, people of influence, and big philanthropic organizations and individuals. Basically, build a foundation to build on. Well, there's no option but to go humongous, because otherwise no one's going to notice. Second, if we do one thing that gets a lot of positive attention, it will be easier to win our allies, partners, and supporters for future projects. Finally, we have to build confidence among young people so more will have the courage to join us.
But how are we going to do that? First, we recognize that together we can do more, but only if we pull on the same rope in the same direction at the same time. So we have to get a lot of people to agree to work on the same project at the same time. It has to be capable of capturing the attention, interest, and imagination of the masses. In other words, starting small and growing is not a recipe for success. The recipe for success is to be outrageously audacious and get people talking about you.
Some will say we're naive dreamers and our projects are just too big, but if everyone is afraid to take on big problems just because they're big, how do we expect to make progress? Well, we're not afraid because we have no choice. It is not our abilities that we should define projects, but rather the problem itself. Everything else is Band-Aid on symptoms. Some 50 years ago, President John F. Kennedy inspired a nation with the statement that the U.S. would put a man on the moon in just 10 years. Do you remember that just a few sentences later, he said, "We don't yet know how we're going to do it, but we're going to do it anyway." Well, we may not yet know how we're going to solve all the SDGs by 2030, but we're going to do it anyway.
So just how big of a project are we talking about? Well, how do these sound? Improving the reading skills of 70 million youth and moving 30 million hungry, impoverished children from the streets and garbage dumps into schools and feeding them there. Many of you are now thinking, that's crazy. But is it?
We said our mission should be to develop an army of young people to take on all the major problems of the world. But it is important to do one huge project quickly. A project big enough to get the world to stand up and take notice. A project that will get the media and the masses around the world talking about the power of young people to change the world. We were inspired by a readathon in a New Jersey elementary school where 70 kids raised enough money to dramatically change or even save the lives of 250 children by getting them into school and fed for a year. Basically, each one of those kids saved the lives of 3 others in just 2 weeks. If that can happen, what could 70 million students do?
Imagine if we, the youth of the world, were able to put an end to children not being in school because of hunger or poverty. Why not? Let's do this. I'm sure many will say we're idealistic or that we're unrealistic to think that we, a bunch of kids, could do something about such a huge goal. We refuse to be intimidated from worthwhile goals simply because they're difficult or big. So why are we readathon? Well, frankly, because it's so simple and easy. No advanced setup is required for anyone to participate. The costs are very minimal, and only 5% participation of the world's students would make an enormous difference. 1 billion hours read, $1 billion raised, reduce the number of poor children in the world who are out of school due to hunger and extreme poverty by tens of millions.
In summation of our talks to you intelligent and passionate young people, we need to focus on solving problems, not just placing a Band-Aid on the symptoms. These problems have to be determined based on need and not just what we think we can accomplish. To do this, we need to be strategic leaders, the kind that are not necessarily hands-on, but work more towards a bigger picture. These solutions can only come if we all work together and have the courage to think big.
So come on, let's do it. Some people see what is and lament why. Others see what could be and say why not. We're looking for people who can see beyond what is to what could be and join us in saying why not. So are you ready to say why not and truly create a future that we want?
Are you ready to join with other young people around the world and bring about dramatic betterment?
We want to end today with a cheer we do for all of our speeches. So when we ask who's got the power, I need everyone else to respond with we've got the power. Ready? Who's got the power?
We've got power!
I can hear you guys.
It's alright. Who's got the power?
We've got power!
Maybe one more time. Who's got the power?
We've got power!
Alright.
If anyone's interested in learning more about Rotary, joining Rotary for a Better World, you can come see one of us three at the end or Mr. Graham down there. Thank you.
Immense thanks to what these three amazing young women are doing, and of course an inspirational speech as to how we young people in our daily lives can be inspirational and actually do change with the simplest of things. So thank you for your amazing work you're doing to change the world. So now I'm not going to bore you with a very long speech. You've been hearing as much